Kingsley Association, and we have many representatives of those organizations here. I'm going to be brief because what we want to do is get the first load of people onto the yellow bus, our shuttle bus, and go over to Westinghouse High School. And that tour will walk back to the Village Green via Mount Zion Church. And that hike is going to be a little bit of a descent and a little bit of a stair climb. So if you don't want to risk that, which Ian and others have done and say it's mostly fine, the second shuttle will come back, and the second shuttle will just go over to Lincoln Boulevard and meet the first group right there, and we'll just stick to the flat. Christine Mondor unfortunately won't be able to join us on the hike, and she's obviously a very important member of our team, and I'd like her to make a few opening remarks about Living Waters before we get onto the...
This is the second of two hikes. We call it Negley Run Was Here. The first Negley Run Was Here was on the western side. So Larimer is shaped like a leaf. It's shaped like this. And the western side, this side, is was the focus of our first hike. The eastern side is going to be the focus of this hike. This project, Living Waters of Larimer, is looking hard at how rainwater becomes an asset, how it becomes integrated into the community's goals, and how we think about it as a positive, is something that a community has a right to, and not just something that a community thinks about or somebody says you need to dispose of. And so the team has been working, building on the neighborhood plans that have been done from 2007, 2008, 2009, all the way through the Choice Neighborhoods projects, which you see. That's where our first tour was, and so we got the tour through that site before construction started, in this precious moment, you know, when you can see the before and after. There are some great assets here, and a lot of people will be taking turns speaking, and so we should introduce the Living Waters of Larimer team and community members, so that you can feel free to ask folks questions as we go, because no single person knows everything about all these places.
John Stephen, community attorney and executive team member of Living Waters, and I'll be joining the crew at the stop at Lincoln Avenue Bridge.
Ian Lipsky, I'm an engineer and hydrologist with Living Waters of Larimer, and I will go all the way to Westinghouse with you.
Hi, I'm Bob Bingham. I'm an environmental artist. Betsy asked me to collaborate on this project more than 3 years ago, and we've been pressing on.
Yusuf Ali, Larimer Consensus Group, and community liaison for Living Waters of Larimer.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm a design consultant with Evolve, and I've been a part of Living Waters for about a year now.
So, I'm Joel Turr. I'm a sort of a historian. I'm at Carnegie Mellon University, and I've been written quite a bit about water and sewers and that stuff in the street.
Malik Bankston, I serve as Executive Director of the Kingsley Association.
Sam Malloy, intern on Living Waters of Larimer, and part of the community outreach team.
Betsy Damon, Living Waters is my passion, not only Larimer, but everywhere world, and I'm an eco-artist.
Hi, my name is Carol Peaks. I'm chair of the Larimer Consensus Group and chair of the Larimer Green Team, and I'm over 30-year resident, live right down on Mayflower on the one-way side, and it's good to see this happening.
I'm Mary Turner. I'm a longtime resident of Larimer, 38 plus years, and I'm on the Larimer Consensus Group in the Living Waters and the Larimer Community Watches. So glad to be here.
She's like a water Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So.
You want an educator, call Mary.
Miss Betty.
Liz.
I'm Betty Lane. I'm a 44-year resident of Larimer, a member of the Larimer Community Watchers. I'm for the Green Team, the Red Up Team, the Larimer Consensus Group, Living Waters of Larimer, everything, co-house and all.
I'm Mayra. I'm with the Kingsley Association and Living Waters.
How are you? So let's take a walk over to Maurice's bus over there. And we have a number of stops on your map that are labeled. This is the first one, Westinghouse High School. What we're going to do is different members of the team have prepared different sections for the map and the research. And if anybody else who may have attended cares to speak up, there is. I've just been dying to say this. There's a wall of fame inside. Started in 1991 of a number of very interesting people.
Okay, so Westinghouse High School opened in 1924, and it was originally designed for wealthy Italian students.
Okay, so I am a graduate of Westinghouse, class of 71. This school, just like this neighborhood, has gone through a lot of transitions. This neighborhood primarily was established and settled mostly by a lot of the sort of senior managers that worked in industry. This part of Homewood, which I generally characterize as being part of North Homewood, is primarily typified by, there are some row house developments like the one you see over here. So it was a very stable middle class neighborhood. The demographic trends have been the same across all of these neighborhoods. It's just that in most instances, black people just ended up being the last ones sort of following the trend. It's not that they started something new, it's not that it was different. You know, they were just doing the same thing, you know, that their white counterparts did before them, whether they were immigrants, you know, whatever the case may be. This school has gone through a lot of transition and changes. It's certainly operating in a very challenging way right now, academically, in terms of what's going on here. When I was here at Westinghouse, there were nearly 4,000 students in this school. We went to school in 2 shifts. We literally had a junior high school and a senior high school, all in one setting. We went to school in 2 shifts. The last shift didn't get dismissed until 4:05 in the afternoon, just to give you some idea. So the people who used to own these houses in this neighborhood were people who, they were teachers, they were mill workers, you know, they worked in the post office, they earned living wages, and they were able to afford these homes, but they were also able to afford to upgrade, keep them up, and keep them in good repair. As those people sort of leave the workforce, you know, they either move away, they die, whatever, these homes end up going to their heirs and descendants who don't have those same economic opportunities available to them. So that's another form of disinvestment, because those people now aren't able to keep these properties up, and so they begin to fall into disrepair. We can look at blocks and blocks of Homewood that used to be very like whole blocks. The blocks are very fragmented because a lot of those homes are now gone. They were blighted, they've been torn down. So that's another form of disinvestment that people need to be mindful of, at least in terms of the after effects of it. But in this neighborhood, just like Larimer, can and is engaged in a process, not the same kind of process that we're working, to begin to try to take control of the planning and the visioning for what the future of this neighborhood can be. And I think that this neighborhood, like Larimer, has a similar challenge in that while it's important for us to be cognizant and be able to recognize what it was, it's equally important that we not become slaves to that history, and that we free ourselves, liberate ourselves to be able to think about what the future can be, which may be something different than what it was. And that's really important. Sure is.
That's true, Ron.
Miss Mary?
I'd like to say something about Westinghouse. I had 3 of my kids that graduate here. It was back in the 80s. And at that particular time, they was given a test for the military. They was training them to take the test for the military. And when 2 of my boys got out of the school and they went and took the test, when they graduated on the 14th of June, they was gone the next 2 days. And my daughter and another Magnum class they had here was cosmetology. And my daughter for 4 years took cosmetology here, and she came out a high honor roll. So there was something good about this school, especially back in the 80s. It was something good with them. I used to live here on Fielding Way, where if you graduated from Westinghouse, you was assured a job. That's how good it was. So in the latter years, what happened to it, it must have went down. But at one point, this was a good school.
I'll just move us forward. So as the hydrologist here, I'll point out some of the landscape issues that we see. You can kind of tell just beyond that ledge over there, there's a ravine that passes down and into the space behind the building where we're going to go. That was one of the streams that came in, fed Silver Lake. If you go over this way a little bit further, there's another little ravine that you'll see the depression. So I'm just encouraging you to read the landscape, see where the water was coming from. Most all of Homewood and Lincoln Leamington was drained through this area, came together, emptied into Silver Lake at one time.
Well, this is an ArcGIS map that I have.
Just I have to get where the water used to flow.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll just be poisoned up. Yes, sir. Thank you. Just wait a minute. Let me get this here.
Yeah. Can't imagine it's not.
Oh, thank you.
The water came down into this area, was slowed down because it was a gushing torrent that came from the hillside, slowed down and then slowly released further downstream so that there were no problems with flooding, flash flooding during big storms. It was a natural system, it worked really well, and it's gone now. Though he wasn't the original owner, we know that a fellow named George Finley acquired these properties somewhere in the 1840s, 1850s. His family held on to the properties, owned them for several decades. Not just this area, but the areas surrounding, parts up until Larimer too. There's actually an area called the Finley Plan.
There's also
Finley
Street.
There's also Finley Street. That was all George Finley. His actual home was one of the last houses on Millionaire Row, which was up on where the Pittsburgh Hospital was. Now is the Forbes.
As a matter of fact, that's right on the other side of Finley Street.
And that was his home. He had a home down here on the lake too. When he was finished, when he sold his home, it became a public space with pavilion and an area for outdoor concerts, a very popular location. It was called Silver Lake Grove. One of the things that Mr. Finley was doing in the middle of the 19th century was experimenting with carp farming and raising fish for food. And he did that in these man-made or manipulated lake systems and this was one of them. This was his largest project, and he raised carp and sold that carp and was writing and passing on his knowledge about managing these systems. 1930s, the area became very filthy. It was neglected. Finley was no longer involved. Trash was coming down the hill from all the runoff and overflows that were happening here. This was a neglected, smelly area. Some folks in Westinghouse High School made an effort to clean it up, restore it back to some usable condition. That didn't work. And in the 1930s, it was filled in. And in 1949, opened the Silver Lake Drive-In, one of only 2 drive-in theaters in the city of Pittsburgh. It was a very popular space. Lots and lots of local people remember the Silver Lake Drive-In. And it was a popular place to come until about 1968. The property was, the drive-in closed down. URA was in possession of the property and arranged to lease it to a company who is going to help develop a number of small small industries, light industries, specifically for the purpose of hiring African Americans living in Homewood and Lincoln Leamington who were losing jobs and were at that time considered chronically unemployed. This is late 1960s. As you can see, there are fewer jobs probably here than there were in the 1970s. The estimate at that time was 250 jobs would become available. URA still owns this road. The property is owned by this leasing company that rents to the different corporations here. And that's where we are today.
To that point, the reason why you don't see quite as much flooding down here now is because this actually, it was drained and filled.
So it's higher than the surrounding town.
Yeah, so now this water is all still basically being shuttled off
somewhere else
towards Washington Boulevard, you know, to keep on uninhibited the path down towards the river. So the drain and the fill effectively brought the level up,
right.
So that the water actually, and now we have all these hardscapes here, you know, on this whole site. You have all this hardscape that actually obviously facilitates that water to keep, you know, running off.
Not in my place.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of I think it changed hands not too long ago. You are a minor.
Is the city of stairs, and so across this city, there were a very extensive network of stairs like these ones that we just
like
came
on the
up,
south side,
that connected neighborhoods that were very, very heavily used.
Point out, as Ian mentioned, this was all owned by George Finley and the Finley family throughout much of the 19th century. So after the Civil War, and most of this area was still not very accessible to the public. The major road from East End down to the river was over at Negley Run. There's a river road headed that way. There were a few roads through here, but for the most part, it was the Finley estate and the lake. Between here and Larimer Avenue Bridge, there was the East End Gas Company, which was formed right around Civil War time, and I think Judge Mellon was one of the first founders. And really, that East End Gas Company powered a lot of the gas lights of the East End in the late 19th century. Towards the end of the 19th century, 1895 or so, City Council passed an ordinance to finally connect Fifth Avenue down towards the Allegheny River Boulevard. And that was done in the spirit of then Edward Bigelow, the city public works director, who was responsible for many of our grand parks. He was the one that chased down Mary Shenley and got Shenley Park dedicated to the city. And he was promoting the idea of a big boulevard to connect all of these city assets, the city parks. And it was called Beechwood Boulevard through the East End. Eventually, the portion that went down to downtown got his name. It was called Bigelow Boulevard, but that was part of the whole system.
The priority was to make these streets railed, for light rail. So all light rail ran all through this area, out through the whole city, through the whole region. Part of Bigelow's vision was that these large boulevards that he was going to build would not have light rail, but they would be used more for pedestrians, bicycles, carts, and the burgeoning automobile. So it was seen sort of as a luxury / leisure corridor. Okay, so
No, that's right, exactly. They're well over there. See down there?
The hope or the vision of Living Waters of Larimer is to find how to maximize where we can collect this water, and then we are calling where the cisterns are a well, the well. It's a metaphor. Always the well has been where people went and talked to each other and gathered and got their waters and got the stories for the day and went back in their works.
One thing that was identified in the Community Vision to Action Plan was utilizing some of this water and some of the land for urban agriculture, leading a discussion with the Larimer Consensus Group for a community land trust, which would be able to manage steward some of these properties, and obviously would be a great umbrella for an urban ag program.
Colson Avenue over there really was where the stream was located. The stream flowed that way, which is east, and probably spilled right over the cliffs down into Washington Boulevard. Wow. The contributing areas are up here. It's actually the case that Shetland Avenue was once called Spring Street, which may have implied that there were a lot of seeps coming out of the hillside here, and it's since been sort of leveled out a little bit. Part of the reason why we chose this location for the community well is because we could capture runoff from these surrounding areas, store it here, release it slowly into this area that we're hoping becomes more firmly earmarked as an urban agricultural zone. So it's all, like Betsy was saying, it's all part of the system. Think about natural processes, look at topography, look where the rainfall goes, figure out how to use those to our advantage, leverage the natural systems in ways that we can benefit from. Behind me is the Larimer School. This is a public school that everyone in the neighborhood attended. Unless you went to Catholic school, you went to Larimer School. There was once a very tall Italian-style tower with a clock on it that faced all directions. That was an important landmark for everyone. It really made this neighborhood distinctive. That tower came down a good long time ago. The school closed down not too long after, and it's currently owned by a gentleman, Emmett Miles, who is an investor and developer of sorts, and he's looking to work with KBK and transform this into some senior housing and some market rate housing as well. There's also a lot of interest through the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative and the Cormac Baron Salazar to put some more commercial properties. Whole thing, but I think we're all right. We're here. The hydrologist talking again. We're on the ridge line. Water just falls over there, moves over that way. Water that falls over here moves over that way. Kind of significant. We're talking about managing stormwater and planning for different reuses and uses of natural spaces.
Speaking of storms.
We have, for those of you interested, that brick building just over here, one of our last remaining old school businesses from the neighborhood, Grosso's Sausage Company.
One of the key features of the co-housing interest group, if you will, is that it is described as being an intentional community. So the people who are involved and interested in it are all people who have come to be known to each other, who are familiar with each other, who have some expressed commitment at some level to want to form a specific residential community. But at its heart, this is a for-sale housing program.
I call it community within the larger community. You have love for cooking. You're going to have plenty of opportunities because they have a common house, and we said there would be one meal there a month for all the tenants in the complex to come and sit down and communicate and eat and socialize. Your garden, we got plenty of garden for landscaping.
The commercial development interest is, I'll say it's latent, because the work that they're primarily responsible for and that they're signed on for now through the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative is centered on mixed income housing. So this general vicinity is also the site for the third phase of the Choice Neighborhoods housing development program.
What they've agreed to do as part of their redevelopment is to put in some street-side bioswales to capture water runoff from the roadway, manage it within a small gardened area along the curb, and raise plants there that will be depressed. It's an innovative process that's being implemented throughout the country in different cities. This will be one of our very earliest installations here in Pittsburgh. It's going to be maintained by Public Works. So a lot of these systems for how we're going to manage green infrastructure and stormwater within our communities, a lot of those systems have not yet been worked out. This is one place where we're starting to work it out.